We're sitting here in our studios in Las Colinas, Texas, and we're making a list of how many people would we have in the Senate like Mike Lee if the guys that we like are elected. Can you imagine? I mean, right now we
talk about three all the time.
With three, Rand Paul, Ted Cruz, and Mike Lee. Those three, those three have done so much to change the course of the last year.
There are four more, and I could push it to five, but there's four Freedom Works endorsed that we're very much behind, and that could boost it to seven. And then if Lindsey Graham's beaten in South Carolina, that'd be eight. But you have Ben Sass in Nebraska. Mm-hmm. You have Matt Bevin in Kentucky. You have Chris McDaniel in Mississippi. And, of course, the man who joins us in studio right now,
Greg Brannon. Running for the U.S. Senate seat currently occupied by Democrat Kay Hagan. He is currently in a primary. It comes up May 6th. I want you to listen to Greg. And if you hear something that you like about him and you think, you know what, I can support, I'm telling you now. In fact, Greg and I were having a conversation before. Hello, Greg, by the way. How are you? We were just having a conversation before we went on the air that we've prayed for people to come and be a part of this revolution, if you will, and try to restore the Constitution. We've prayed for people like this, and now they're here. I think you're one of them. But now these people are rising up, and you told me you think there's a lot of them.
I sure
Do we have his mic? Is mic on?
The microphone's not on.
Microphone.
Bill?
We're having technical difficulties here.
Hey, don't worry, it's only a national.
Yeah, don't.
If you're one of the 10 million people listening right now, just stand by.
Well, you know what? If Karl Rove's candidate was here, we'd have his mic on. Carl would make sure that mic was on.
Carl would have greased the wheels enough to where.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, Glenn, thank you very much. My wife and I walked in the studio today, and you have a David and Goliath right there.
Yeah.
And you said with 5 stones, David went after Goliath. He went after him with 1 because he had 4 more because Goliath had 4 other relatives that were famous giants. He was prepared. This is what we're doing. This is what we're doing, Glenn. We're taking our shot, and we're going to win.
The amazing thing is that the guys that I am meeting now are not afraid of being destroyed. They're like, yeah, okay, yeah, sure. Well, yeah, they might destroy me. They might smear me. They might, do whatever. And you're going up against a Karl Rove guy.
Yeah, in Carl's last election cycle, he did well. He lost 10 out of 12.
That's it.
This is really clear. I mean, we were talking off. I'm a believer. I have nobody on this earth to bow to other than my wife. And
by the way, hello, Jody, and we're gonna have you on TV tonight because I really want to talk to you. I think talking to the wife sometime is much more important and enlightening than talking to the candidate. You remember the dirtbag we had on Fox at one time? Talked to the wife, and she was like, "Don't ask me any questions, please. Don't ask me any questions." We're like, yeah, don't trust this guy. Anyway, you were saying?
I'm just saying it's exciting because what else do we have to pass on to our kids? We're going to pass on to our kids a less free America? There's no way. This is 1770s all over again.
What do you think is the most pressing problem right now? If you had to pick one thing.
See, my thing, Glenn, it's not one thing. They want us to pretend it's one thing and we have to fight these tentacles. It's really the constitutional crisis we have. Whatever the issue is because they overstepped their bounds in Article 1, Section 8. That's all this is. I don't care if it's Obamacare, Dodd-Frank, Common Core. I don't care what it is. It's because they've overstepped their federal function to usurp their power. And we are the ones that must stand up. And I believe we have to ask ourselves this question. Franklin actually sat down for 5 months and looked at George Washington sit in that chair for 5 months in Philadelphia. And on that chair was half of a golden sun engraved in that chair. And he asked that generation concerning the American experiment, the American Republic, is that a sunrise or a sunset? And they answered boldly and proudly, a sunrise. I'm asking us that. Are we going to be the generation that passes on American sunset? I'm telling you, the next 40 years is going to be our second sunrise, and I'm pumped to be part of that.
I will tell you this. I think that it is, I don't think we save the country as is, but I don't really want to anyway. I mean, I'm not married to anything other than freedom. I'm not married to, I used to go to Washington, D.C., and I used to look at all the buildings and look at all the memorials and everything else. Now I really hate them. Now I go there and I look at them and I see the towers in the sky that they are building. I see the cranes everywhere, and America is struggling. There's no building going on outside of Texas. It's hard to find people that are expanding. And you go to Washington, and it's the greatest economy in the world. And I think to myself, this has become Versailles. It's a different world.
I agree. Our American Revolution was completely different than the French Revolution, but the collective will is now coming over. See, the only legitimate role of a government, is to protect the individual's inalienable rights. Life, moment of conception to natural passing, liberty and pursuit of your dreams. The other week when you were talking about, I want to live my life. We can't live our life because the government tentacles got involved. But I believe again, the structure is beautiful. The rule of law our founders put on 6 pages. I mean, our Constitution is 6 pages that restrains the federal government. There's 3 crimes: treason, counterfeit, and piracy. And the Fed does all 3 of those, okay? And we have the Bill of Rights that declares nothing. It does not grant anything. It just declares God-given natural rights. But it's us as individuals freely associating, linking arms. That's what the establishment is fearful of.
Let's go through some of the things that are currently happening right now. Let's take Fort Hood. Fort Hood, do you arm soldiers?
Okay. Our best and brightest, our ones that are prepared to defend us everywhere on foreign and domestic, aren't armed. It's insane. And first off, it's the first law of natural law is self-defense.
I know.
Anybody should be armed across this country.
Common Core. Last night I had 3 teachers in here. Were these people amazing, Stu?
Yeah, they really are. 3
teachers came in. Everybody's been saying, well, the teachers love it. No. These brave teachers are facing their firing. They'll never work again. They all work at the same school, and they all got together and said, we have got to stand up against this. Some of the other teachers around them are saying, please keep going. I can't lose my job. Everybody is, and the GOP is a big, big part of it. They say that, Jeb Bush will just change the name, but we'll keep going. Why is Common Core bad?
Okay, Jeb Bush, Huckabee, they're all saying the same thing. Change the name, keep going. In the federal role, there's no education, number one. We have to get back and we don't need approval. Those children are not creatures of the state. They're God gifts to the parents, number one. Number two, education does not equal schooling. John Taylor Gatto's books on education are phenomenal through the true history of our country. So what's wrong with Common Core? It dehumanizes the individual. I'm an OBGYN, and I have a lot of lovely teachers. My wife's a public school teacher in New York, Chicago, and L.A. Yeah, exactly.
It's like Vietnam, Iraq, and Pakistan.
Yes. So, but the thing about it, Glenn, I have teachers coming in every afternoon crying because Common Core, crying because those 20 tests a month, crying. What they want to do, this is Woodrow Wilson's ultimate dream. He said we need 2 types of educators. We need the classical liberal education for the elite, and for everybody else, the worker bee, the K through 12, be the doctor, the lawyer, the plumber, the baker, and be part of society. This is Plato's Republic. You have the producers who are interchangeable and replaceable, the auxiliary, who's the material, the military keeps them in line, and the guardians who are above them, who are make the law and outside the law. That's not America.
I think I love him.
Yeah. I'm just wondering, are you the same Greg Brannon behind GregBrannon.com? Would that be you?
Question,
and your,
yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, you're throwing him up against the ropes like that?
Well, you have to. You
Wow.
have to.
I'm not saying Greg Brannon, but even more importantly, I mean, this is no joking, but what you guys have done for us, and the last time we were on the radio show, our donations through the roof. So we have another one this week.
Are you saying you can donate there at GregBrannon.com? Is that what you're saying?
You could do that as well as BeckBomb.com. BeckBomb.com.
Okay.
Because we are gathered.
That sounds like half of my shows.
That website used to be owned by the administration as well, interestingly.
No, that was BombBeck.
Okay, sorry. You're right.
Yeah.
Well, the thing, we're getting our stones ready to fight those giants, so we need those funds. But we're raising more help. You talked about the Republicans in our state, North Carolina. It became law under Tillis, my opponent. It became law under the Republicans there. It became law, and then try to say they were not for it. That's why we're pulling back the veil. We're showing who the wizard really is, and they're getting exposed.
And Greg, you're in kind of an interesting race because it seems like you're already in polls. You're pulling ahead of the incumbent, Kay Hagan. You're in a tougher battle probably with the Republican, right?
Oh, on the side, we've been Kay, I think 6 months in a row now in the PPP polling.
Yeah.
On the primary side, we are either number 1 or number 2 with the establishment guy. Our internal poll. We're going to win
Karl
this.
Rove guy.
We're going to win this without a runoff. There's no doubt in my mind. The wave that is coming.
In order to do that, you need what? 50%?
40% plus 1.
Oh, 40 plus 1.
Okay.
Nice.
Because right now, I mean, looking at the race, and it's an interesting race because we've talked with you a couple times and spoken mainly about this sort of Karl Rove-backed candidate, Tillis. However, it's a pretty crowded field. Right now, I'm looking at the latest poll from PPP, as you pointed out. 18% for Tillis, 15% for you. You're right there. But then Mark Harris at 11%, Heather Grant at 7%, Ted Alexander at 6%, Alex Bradshaw at 5%. It's a really complicated field.
How are you thinking you're going to hit 40?
I know what our internals are showing us. I know what we're doing across the state, and I believe my team is phenomenal. And what they've done at the grassroots level, the precinct level, we have this seed that's been fertilized for 14 months. We have that growing and percolating. We have men like Senator Lee, Senator Paul, Matt. Again, me talking about Matt Kibbe. I cannot. He's a warrior. Okay.
Oh, he sure is.
So we have the right guys from top merging with the people from the bottom. I believe the wave's going to happen. There's no doubt in my mind because we have other polls.
I personally think this is going to happen, and if it doesn't, I think America has made her choice. I really do. I mean, you know, we could say that about the last election, that, hey, you made your choice, but not really, because really you had hardcore Marxist revolutionary against a progressive. That's not as much. When you know, Mitt Romney was on TV saying, you know, Mr. President, I agree with the last debate. I think he said, I agree with you more than he said any other, you know, series of words. And so it wasn't really a choice. This one is. You have constitutional, libertarian conservatives that are running, and they are credible. It's not like the crazy people that, you know, we've had in the past or whatever, you know, and people who had no experience in anything. These are all credible people that really believe something. And I think at the end of this one, if America doesn't choose people like you or Sass or
Bevan.
Matt Bevan, I think we have made a choice.
Yeah, and that's why I'm optimistic, because the percentage on top is so small in the establishment. They're playing with smoke and mirrors.
I know.
It's us. We, the people, are back, and it's an exciting time. So back to Mr. Tillis. He said Obamacare is a great idea. We just can't afford it. He said he actually started getting the state exchanges in the House, but got stopped in the Senate. He said it's not if we have Obamacare, it's how we implement it.
This is Jeb Bush. This is another Jeb Bush kind of, you know, big government. This is what we've warned about. When Jeb Bush says, you hear when somebody like Jeb Bush says, you know what we're going to do? We have an alternative, and we have to talk about the alternative. The alternative still is a state-run healthcare system, and that's not what we're for. We're for the free market system.
Yeah. In 2010, I wrote a paper about healthcare, America's healthcare. I went through the philosophy of it, the Plato's philosophy versus Hippocratic philosophy, and the idea of the individual over the collective, the whole bit. And I went through Article 1, Section 8 and Article 7, how you define it, which Ted was 100% constitutionally correct. And my idea was in that time was the Commerce Clause, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3. At that time, there are 267 health insurance companies in the United States. What if the Commerce Clause was done correct and meant to make regular, and all of them were in North Carolina competing for our dollar? Prices go down, quality goes up.
Right.
In our state, you can't even if you and I want to invest and open a hospital, we have to go to the state legislators and ask for a certificate of need. That destroys competition. That's not
the Commerce Clause. The way that the Supreme Court changed the meaning of the Commerce Clause back under FDR fundamentally changed our entire country. If we would just change the Commerce Clause, almost everything would right itself.
Yeah, the Wickard-Filburn case. But as you know, the Commerce Clause was used the first time in 1887 to stop J.J. Hill's Great Northern Railroad that was destroying the federally subsidized Central Union.
I was just going to say that.
So,
can I mean, you're busy with the doctor stuff. When did you like, you know, learn about history?
About 5-6 years ago, my wife joked. She goes, "What do you read?" I was reading some book on Constitution. She goes, "What are you doing?" She goes, "Is that your hobby again?" And I get into hobbies, and I made this hobby into a passion. And I really believe I was meant to do this. It was Good Friday 2009. I was on a run, and God laid in my heart November 14, Hagen, and gave me those 5 years to really start. I mean, I was reading then, but I started reading 4 books a week, and I started preparing. And my wife goes to bed by 10 o'clock, so from 10 to 1, I read every day and prepared. And it's just, when you start opening your books up and you start looking at the bibliographies, and then you're reading, you know, Vattel's Law of Nations, and you're reading Adam Smith that leads you to von Mises, it just adds up. And it's not to be smart, Glenn. The more I read, the simpler it is.
Oh, yeah.
You were made in God's image.
Yeah.
You as an individual, so Stu and Pat, as individuals, you have inalienable rights given by the Creator.
Yeah.
If the government ever steps those bounds, it's illegitimate.
Have you read Moral Sentiments?
No, I'm not.
You should read, because you've read Wealth of Nations?
Oh, yes, sir.
Okay. Moral Sentiments is the book that came before it.
Yeah, I have it. I've never read it.
You should read it. I mean, you want to talk about simple, and that is one of the problems. We talk about Wealth of Nations, but nobody talks about Moral Sentiments. And Moral Sentiments is, if you're going to be good, you'll create a good society. That when you're free, that invisible hand will create good things. But you have to have the right moral sentiments. And what our society has done is we've completely dismissed moral sentiments. We said you can compartmentalize your life. No, you can't.
No, you can't. And most of those great economics people, von Mises, Smith, were all philosophers based on Judeo-Christian beliefs. And that's what makes this so
It goes
beautiful.
in that Christianity nut job stuff.
Yeah, it is. But I have people hammer me on the campaign that Greg's too philosophical. Well, if you don't have a philosophy, you don't have a foundation, you can't make anything else.
Well, you think that moments like when you're going through an Obamacare debate are the times that you need principles most, because sometimes it is emotion plays in and pressure plays in, and that's when you need the principles.
Okay, GregBrannon.com is where you can go and donate. These guys need your help, because Karl Rove and the establishment after these guys. If Greg sounds like somebody you can support, go to GregBrannon.com. He's going to join me again at 5 o'clock tonight, and we're bringing Jody on, too, because I want to spend some time with his wife and kind of talk to her and see what the real deal is. And that's 5 o'clock tonight, only on the Blaze TV. Check it out at theblazetv.com.